In this video, I'm going to show you how to make jump up drum and bass like ATMOS. All the samples used in this video are from my jump up DnB sample pack. So if you want to get that, there's a link down below. And if we could go for 100 likes in this video, that would be insane. We're going to start this video by looking at the drums. Then we're going to look at the basses, then the vocals, then the instruments, and then the effects. So let's start with the drums here. So you can see all my drums here are in a drum bus, and if we open this up, you can see that everything is organized. Now, if you don't have this project template, it's available on my website in the add-ons section. I really recommend getting it and using it because it literally is game changing. So we have all our drums here, and then all of them are going to the drum bus here, which in turn is going to the master channel here. So let's zoom in and let's look at the intro first. So you can see the intro and the build are 32 bars long. So we've got the first 16 bars here, and then we've got a little breakdown here, and then we've got a build up here. Now, if we were just to play the first 16 bars, and I can mute all the other buses here. So these are the first 16 bars. We can see that all we have is a hi-hat. So jump up hat 31, and then every third beat, we have jump up hat number 9. So jump up hat 31 sounds like this. Jump up hat 9 sounds like this. And together they sound like this, just hitting every beat and then every third beat. And you can see here, for hat 31, I've dragged it down on here and on here. And this gives some velocity changes so they don't just sound the same. So it adds a bit of groove to the track. And then all I've done is duplicated this all the way along here for 16 bars, and it's created this pattern. And that sounds really cool for a lot of intros, especially like atmospheric intros, or even melodic intros as well sometimes work with these. So once we have our intro, we then go down into this breakdown, and it's pretty much the same. We've just added some more elements to it. So we've kept the initial hats, and then we've added this perk sound. It's literally just a percussion sound hitting every single step and slowly being filtered in with these two here. So what I've done with this percussion element is I've automated it with EQ and a filter. So this EQ, if we have a look, we've got a high pass filter here and a low pass filter here. And then what we're doing is, if you were to right click on this bit down here, create automation clip, whilst all this is selected, control and then drag along here, it creates this automation, and then we can like right click on here to shape it, and we can like affect the EQ of the sound to make it sound a bit different and not just the same throughout. And then with this filter here, we can just right click, create automation clip, and then have it start at 0 and slowly come up. So the sound is slowly coming in. And if we play it, you can see this is being affected here, and this is being affected here, slowly coming in. And you can hear it in the background, slowly getting louder. And then that's forming part of the build-up, and then it goes into the main build-up here. And then on top of that, we've just got our clap playing, coming in for the first time. Just like that. This is kind of a breakdown slash build-up. It's like a mini build-up before the main build-up. And this clap is just hitting every other beat, just like the clap will be in the drop. And then finally we have our last 8 bars, and this is where the kick drum comes in, and the kick drum is playing a lot, and then we have the clap playing more, and the clap also layered. So if I just play it for you, and we've got some EQ going on as well, I'll show you that. Just the same as before. And then everything cuts out 1 bar before the drop, because that's when the vocal comes in, and that just gives it more tension and makes it sound better, basically. So this kick drum is hitting every step as well and being EQ'd, and then this clap is hitting every beat, and then it doubles in the last 4 bars of the build-up. So in the intro, we start with hats, then we introduce claps, perks, build-ups, and then the kick drum, and everything is being automated in slowly to give it more tension. And then 1 bar before the drop, everything cuts out, and then the drop hits. Now let's look at the drums on the drop. So I'm just going to highlight the first 4 bars for you, and we're going to recreate them just so you can see exactly what's going on. So let me just delete them all for you, and then we'll recreate them. So firstly, we've got jump up kick 10, which sounds like this. And all we've got on it is a blood overdrive to make it sound even more aggressive on these settings. And this is just going to go every single bar like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a bit different to the normal pattern, because normally we have one here as well, and then here, but we're not going to do that for this tune, because we've got so many basses playing in the drop, it doesn't need it, it'll make it sound too cluttered. Next, what I've done is I've found a really aggressive clap that sounds like this, and then I've layered it with a snap, which sounds like this, and then if you combine both these together, it gives this really cool sound. Now I have had to do a lot of work with this to get it to sound good, so I EQ'd the snap here, and I EQ'd the clap like this, and then I added a fruity fast distortion, don't know why it's called Saturday, ignore that, and then I added more EQ, and then I added another EQ, because I wanted it to sound really aggressive, but also I didn't want the highs to like hurt the ears, and to get that with a clap is really hard, so I used like this dim high side, which kind of helped a little bit. And then I just like used a Pro L to make it sound aggressive as possible. And eventually I got there. And this is also turned all the way to make sure it's in mono, because that snap was going a bit stereo. And then one thing you want to note is you want your snap and your clap combined together to be like still really loud, but not too loud that it hurts your ears. So you got to get it through the mix whilst also not hurting your ears, which is really challenging, but it can be done. So give it a go. Find a hard clap and a snap and combine them together and see if it sounds good for you. And these go every other beat. So here, 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 and then here. And it sounds really nice together. So now we need to add some groove with some hi-hats. So first we're using an open hat, and I've just turned the pitch all the way up, get it to sound really high pitched. And this can go every 2 bars, so one on here and one on here. And this is essentially just making the first kick drum sound even more transient. Next, we're going to grab jump up hat 16, and this is going to go in between the bars. So here, 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 and here. And this is going to get you that rhythm sound. And then we're just going to add some little bits of ear candy. So we're going to add jump up 15 here with the pitch up 3 semitones before this hi-hat here and before this hi-hat here. And then if we just zoom in, we can make it go across here so it's even more bouncy. And then finally, we've got jump up perk 28 on these settings here. And then we're just going to add this in right after this hi-hat here. So here, and then the same here. And then just copy it across again. Now if we play it. So this perk is just adding to that awesome like rhythm, and then I've got an EQ on it as well. Bonus points, by the way, if you know what ATMOS song I used for the reference track, let me know in the comments. You should be able to get it from this little perk sound here. And then essentially these drums are just copied all the way along. You can see here that I've got 16 bars, and then at the end of the 16 bars we've just added in jump up breaks 5, which is EQ'd quite a lot, get rid of any lows. And it just adds like a little bit of a transition. And then at the end of the 32 bars, we just go completely silent. And then I think there's a vocal here. And then this whole section is then just copied along here. And then this entire section here is then copied along here. And then that's the end of the track there. Now, if you're liking the look of this project so far, and you're liking the way I'm teaching music, and you're struggling a little bit and you want to take your music to the next level, my Music Production Academy is now open. It's the second link down below. You get access to over 14 hours of courses. You get one-to-one production help from me, one-to-one feedback on your tracks from me, and one-to-one help releasing music. So if that's something that interests you, click that second link down below. Loads more info on that page, and I'm looking forward to seeing you inside. So now the bit I'm sure you've all been waiting for. Let's look at the basses. Now, you're going to love me here because I've actually shown you the A-B-A-C method. So if I just zoom in, you can see the first 8 bars of the drop, we're using A for the first 2 bars, B for the second 2 bars, A for the third 2 bars, and C for the fourth 2 bars. And then this just gets repeated. And then what we can do is just go here, make unique, and then we can create some variation later on, which I'll show you. I've done. You can see A number 2, B number 2, A number 2, B number 2. A number 3, and it's just a really great way of making music. Just simplifies it so much, makes everything organized. But now let's break it down. Let me show you the melodies first. So we've got an 808 playing at the start here, D then C sharp. Then we've got a foghorn playing around the D area here, with a sub underneath it. Then we've got our talking bass here playing these notes. And then if we come to this next section, section B, we've got our crazy reverbed bass playing this pattern, which I just did with trial and error. And then we've got section A repeated again. And then section C, we've got our respace playing this pattern. And then it repeats. And then we get variation later on. Also, I'm starting to collect a lot of these projects, and I'm thinking of making a future jump up drum and bass pack. So it's going to have like loads of project files in Ableton as well, if you're on Ableton, and then just loads of like crazy futuristic jump up sounds like the talking basses, the foghorns, the reverbed basses. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know down below, and I'll definitely work on that next. So now that we've looked at the melodies, let's actually look at the basses themselves. So let's look at the 808s first. So this is directly from the sample pack. It's from the jump up pack and it's called Speedy. So essentially what this is a sine wave, and then we've dragged LFO1 onto here like this, and then if you press Alt and Shift and click, it changes the direction of it. And then we've just got it on 12, and then LFO2 is the shape on the level here. Got a filter on it as well going through oscillator A, and then we've got these effects on as well, so diode 2, compression, another filter, an EQ. It just gets a really cool, really aggressive sounding 808. And then post-processing, we've just got a Camel Crusher on it on the British clean setting. And of course, we've got our sidechain on 2. If you don't know how to do sidechain, I'll leave a link to the tutorial I've made on that down below. But Kickstart is just the fastest way to sidechain for me. Next, we've got this foghorn sound. This is actually from my Rollers pack. It's the Storm foghorn in the Rollers pack, and it looks a bit like this. So it's basic shapes doing these crazy square waves, and then we've got some FM synthesis going on, and then the semitone is up 5 on this side, and it creates like this kind of wobbly effect. Got another filter on it, a sub, a noise, and then the post-processing, we've got diode 1 this time instead of diode 2. A lot of compression, multi-band compression you can see here, and an EQ. So this, when it goes, you can see it moves like up. Just adds a bit more automation to the bass. Really cool foghorn, this one. And then this is where our sub actually comes in as well. So if we have a look at channel 24, we've got our Camel Crusher on it, then a Pro MB boosting some of the frequencies, and then we've got our sub bass playing underneath it. Now you might be wondering, why isn't it on the same note? And that's just because I think that this, when it's D sharp playing, it sort of sounds like the D. Because we've got this FM synthesis and it's on +5, the true note that you're playing isn't actually the note, it's something different, because FM synthesis changes the pitch, and so does increasing the semitone. So you sort of got to use your ears, use a keyboard maybe, like a piano keyboard, to figure out what note it's playing. And I thought D sharp sounded most like D. And then we just whack the sub underneath to get this really thick sound. Now normally I also EQ it, stop any phasing issues, just like this, but I didn't for some reason. So I'll just add that in now. It sounded fine, so it's not too big of an issue, but just make sure you do that, because sometimes it can cause some weird distorting sounds in your low end frequencies. And next we have the talking bass, and this is also layered with the sub bass. So let's look at the talking bass, and then let's look at the sub bass as well. So the talking bass, we're using basic shapes again with this square. The wavetable position has changed, and then we've got this on the level, and then we've got it on trigger mode to get that wobble, and then we've got formant-II on. This is what creates the talking sound, because without it sounds like this. With it, kind of sounds like an old school dubstep tune that somehow made a comeback into drum and bass. So we've got it on 9 and then 82, and then we've just got some of these settings on here. The downsample is really cool to use with this as well. And then post-processing, we've got a reverb on it, a Saturn 2 on it on the 4, 5, 6 setting on these, and then an EQ, just getting rid of the lows because we put this fat sub bass underneath it, which is just the jump up sustained number 2 sound, which is kind of a weird sound. It's not a sine wave, which is a bit strange. And we use this add bass setting to just completely destroy the low end, and then a compressor and EQ as well. And then we've got a R bass mono on it as well. And this just makes it sound even more aggressive. Not completely necessary though, so don't worry if you don't have it. And then we actually have another talking bass down here. I've just like played around and varied it a little bit, changed the wavetable, changed around some settings, changed the distortion, and then I've used this in the second drop. Also guys, this tune is out. It's called Psychosis. So please give it a stream, add it to your playlist. I'll leave a link down below for it as well. But listen to this second drop now. It just makes such a difference, just like changing up some of the settings on the bass. So you just literally go down here, clone it, and then come here and change stuff around, and then make a new pattern here, and then second drop, you can just make like this. So listen to this.
Do you hear it?
I think that just sounds ridiculous, and people are going to be like, whoa, when the second drop comes in, because it's like completely switched up, but still the same note. Now we've done that, let's have a look at section B, which is this reverbed bass. So we've used the sync feature on this one to create this weird distorted style sound, and we're using FM from this sound, so you see the levels turn off all the way here. So this is just sync 1-2 setting, and it's on like 6.8 to give this weird looking thing here. And then this is just the default, and then these are the settings along the top here, +1, +10, -2. And then we've got tube distortion, multiband compression, hyper, and EQ. And then this sound really comes out more with the post-processing. So we've got a lot of post-processing on here, without the post-processing, with the post-processing. That's why I call it a reverbed bass, because we've got this reverb on it, Valhalla Room on these settings. We've got the camel crusher on Annihilate, which is just ridiculous. And then a filter here cutting out some of the highs on 78% here, you can see. And then a Pro Q cutting out the lows, because again, we're putting our sub bass underneath it. And then a Pro MB boosting the mids and the highs as well. And of course our kickstart too. So it gets this pattern. And that's almost all the bass is done, but we've got our respace at the end. And this is just on its own, no sub bass underneath it, bit like the 808. And again, this is a pretty simple sound. It's just a basic MCB sound, which is similar to the default one. It's just a little bit lower on here and here. And it's on 4 unison, bit of detune here. The RAN's all the way up because it's a respace. And then we've got this LFO on the level here going both ways on 18%. You can see it's both ways. Remember to shift and alt to get it to go both ways or one way. And then we've got this LFO on the level, making it wobble a little bit. MG low 12, filter on, and then just some distortion and some compression. And we've got a camel crusher on it again. I like using camel crusher because it's free, so you guys can just use it for free. And it's actually really effective. You don't need all these fancy plugins to get your tracks to sound good. You just need to input the right settings into Serum and then just use a bit of something that you can literally get for free and just process it properly. That's all. Now I think this coarse pitch isn't actually needed on here. So if you just want to ignore that, and then I think you can just like change this to like higher. Yeah, so that coarse bit, I don't know why I put that on there. So just ignore that. But this is from the Jump Up Respace pack. All you got to do, some really sick presets in this pack. And that is every bass complete. So you can see there's quite a lot of basses in here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 basses in this drop in total. And it creates a lot of nice variation, and it all works pretty well together. So now let's go on to the vocals. So luckily now everything is pretty simple. I've just found these like old movie dialogue vocals that were actually from Splice, but I don't think they're on there anymore. So you might have to just look on like YouTube, or maybe you can find some movie dialogue sample packs online if you Google it. I was actually thinking of making one myself at some point. So if you think you'll be interested in that, I'll see if I can get one made with like hundreds of samples in. So we've got like this laughing effect first, which I thought worked nicely because I could add a load of reverb on it, and then it goes nicely into the build up. So listen here. So it's got reverb on it and an EQ, and then a load of delay. So it like switches into the build up nicely. Yeah, it like nicely carries over. Without it sounds a bit like nothing's going on really in the track. See how it just sounds a little bit more empty without it. And then before the drop, I found this really cool. There's actually quite a lot of sounds in here, which I then use along the whole drop, split up. And I just focus on putting them in the last bar/2 bars where C is happening of the drop. So you can see.
Do you hear it?
And it's like kind of, because it's called psychosis, it's all about like hearing noises in your head and stuff. And you'll see something really cool I've done with the instruments later on. And then we just have the rest of the vocal here. So we have a little bit here with the respace playing. Yes. And then more of the vocal here. Night after night. So it's kind of like saying a little story. And then here we go it as well.
For what?
And then here again at the end.
I don't know. That's what I thought.
And then all of this is literally just duplicated to here. Because I ran out of vocals and it just sounded cool anyway. And then all of this is just duplicated in the second section. No variation. Because we're just focusing on variation in the basses. Now let's have a look at the instruments. So again, these are pretty simple. I just created a nice melody in the key of the track, which is D minor. And I just found a pad on Nexus. This pad here, the Vizar? Probably butchered that name. And it's literally just playing this melody here. I thought it was a really cool eerie pad. And then it's literally just that for the intro. And then for the breakdown / start of the build up, I keep it in and layer it with this. And I added in a second pad called water chord, and that's just layered on here. You can see here and here. So it sounds like this here, and then it sounds like this. I thought that just added more tension and created more like build up to the drop. And then we found this really cool ear candy on Splice, which kind of sounds like people like whispering in your ears like you've got psychosis or whatever. So I thought it worked well with the name of the track. And then what I've actually done is I've chopped a little bit of this and put it in the drop here. So when the yo-yo talking bass is playing, let me play it for you, you can kind of hear this behind it. Yeah. Don't know if you can hear that, but it makes it sound like the talking bass is like kind of talking as well. So a bit of an artistic element in there I thought was really cool. And if you go and listen to the track on Spotify, you'll hear it and you'll be like, whoa, what's he done there? And then I've just added this monster sound here to add like a little transition element into the main build-up, which was just a monster snarl. I just typed that into Splice and found some pretty cool samples. And then we found this phone ringing on Splice, like a voicemail thing, as if like trying to get through to someone, but he can't. And that kind of just follows the kick drum and the clap and in the build-up element. And the pad, I just have it playing the root note of the D minor, D, and I've actually just turned it into like a sort of, not a riser, because it doesn't go up in pitch. I slowly EQ it out basically. You can see here, slowly EQ out the lows of it, and then it's gone by the time that the pre-drop comes in. Sometimes I do turn them into risers as well, because that can work really nicely with the effects, but I didn't for this one. Just personal preference for this track. So the instruments is all about finding like a really eerie pad progression in D minor and then adding some ear candy with it and making sure just that it flows from intro to breakdown to build up. There was a lot of trial and error involved in this because initially I didn't have this here, but then it sounded too empty in the breakdown, so I had to add it back and then I layered it and then it just sounded a lot better. So now let's look at the final section, the effects. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the effects, but don't worry, it's pretty simple. We just have lots of ATMOS. So we've got Jump Up ATMOS 4, which is playing a D. Jump Up ATMOS 6, which is playing a D sharp, but we've dragged it down one semitone on here, so minus 100 in the top left there. Now it's playing a D. And then we've layered these together, found some more stuff on Splice, this strange wind effect. Found another thing on Splice, like this percussion loop, which is like adding tension. Found this like horror effect here, which sounds like whispering, adding to that psychosis theme. And then we've had one of my rollers full drum loop effects here, just adding even more sounds, some like sweeps, so risers, down filters, and then a impact as well. And then we've got my jump up riser here, starting in the breakdown, building up with an EQ on it, and then just more risers here, another riser here, and then some weird risers here This one's super weird and cool. I just found this sample on Splice. A robotics one-shot. Turned it into a riser. And to get that, you just have to change this pitch here to 12, grab this section, right click, create automation clip. Then you can see I've just like dragged this into position here. And now you can see it's slowly going up in pitch. You need to put stretch mode on as well. And it creates a sort of riser in its own way. And we've got this weird riser here as well that I created, resampled, just from weird ear candy on Splice. So let's listen to these effects all together. So you can hear it's sort of sounding like whispering in your ears, mixed with tension. You can also see in the drop, I've got these risers coming in like every 16 bars just to add to the drop. And then we've got our riser here and then a little impact there adding to it, and then the main risers start to come in. That percussion element's making it sound really eerie. More risers come in for the main part of the build up, the last 8 bars. And then loads of tension, and then it should just all stop. There you go, 1 bar before the drop, and the drop comes in. Boom. One thing to know about the effects as well, is they normally come in a lot quieter than everything else. So you can see here I'm at -3 dB, whereas everything else is going to be like 0 dB.
Do you hear it?
And I'm actually mixing loud for this video. If you don't understand about mixing loud, I recently made a video on that. I'll leave a link down below for that as well. I've just got everything being pumped, and then I've just turned the bass bus down a little bit, only like -1.5 dB, just so it sounds a little bit quieter than the drums, because the drums need to be the loudest element of your track. And then all this, because it's being mixed so loud, it's going to the master channel. I've literally just got a sausage burner on it. And then look at this. Look what LUF value I'm getting from this track. -4.2 right there. That is super loud, and it sounds super clean as well. That's the track complete. Let's listen to it all the way through.
I don't know. That's what I thought. I don't know. That's what I thought.
And that is the track complete. You can see there I showed you the little bit of variation in the last 32 section of the drop. We just changed some of the bass midis up a little bit. And if you found this video useful, then I really recommend getting the Jump Up drum and bass pack. It's the first link down below. It really helped massively with your music production. And if you want to listen to Psychosis, I've got a link to that as well. out now on all platforms. And of course, my Music Production Academy, that's the second link down below if you want to take your productions to the next level. If you've got any recommendations for future videos, ATMOS was actually recommended by a load of you, so thank you so much for recommending. I had so much fun with this project. Please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.